got a little care package from LSS. Figured open it up for you guys. Check it out. I don't actually know what's in this. I'm assuming it's my spoiler card, but I don't actually know what's in this. And then we'll talk about my thoughts on the heavy hitters limited format of what my thoughts on it are so far. Let me pan this down and we can check out what's in here. How the heck do I open this? Oh, I found the peel here. Oh, I feel a playmat. What is this? Oh. We got... Is it the same thing on the playmat? Okay, so it's a playmat of Boast. That's pretty cool. That hairy chest, though. And then we got a promo to go with it. It's a cold foil extended art Boast. Let me pull this out and you guys can take a better look. It's so hard doing this inverted. My brain does not function that way. And then Illuminaris. Is it cold foil? Yeah, it's cold foil. This lighting is not doing it justice. Let me move my lamp over and then maybe that will help. Nope, just all glare. Professional YouTuber with professional lighting here. You'll just have to take my word for it. It is a cold foil. Yeah, it just isn't picking it up. I might just like record a video with my phone and just like throw it over here and you guys can take a better look at it through that. But yeah, thank you so much, LSS. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for letting me spoil this card. It is truly an honor to be able to spoil this fantastic card, this fantastic art. And as of right now, as I'm recording this, we actually got a Prism in the finals of the Battle Hard, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what that deck looks like, and you know I'm going to be covering that. I'll try to make a video talking about the deck and such. But yeah, again, thank you so much, LSS, and let's talk about the Heavy Hitters format. Big Pheano. I actually have mostly good things to say about the format, to be honest. I have a couple negatives, but let's start off with the good. What do I like about the format? First of all, big thing that I've been missing in Fab that this set, I wouldn't say introduced, but it feels like it's an important piece of the format that's been missing in some of the previous sets. Some of the earlier sets did this pretty well, but I'll stop burying the lead. Build-arounds and archetypes. I felt like a lot of the previous sets didn't really have that. It's like Monarch, you had that, where you had like low power matters and big power matters, things like that. WTR, you have some of that. I imagine Arcane Rising has some of that. I've never played the set, so I don't want to speak on that, but I'm assuming it did like non-attack actions matter or something like that. I don't know. But you know, you look at Uprising, for example, it really didn't have that. It was Draconic matters. That's crazy. That's what my hero is. So I'm just drafting these cards anyways. So it's one of the things that I always really enjoyed in Magic. If you guys have heard my other limited videos, I'm probably going to be repeating myself a little bit on this. But the ability to not just draft like a red-black deck. You can draft like synergy cards that let you go deeper on a specific archetype than just the two-color pair. So, for example, in this set, we have things that care about the tokens that you have in play, like get extra benefit if you have a specific token in play. You have things that get benefits after the fact of the specific text that token would have given you, like if something already had Go Again, for example, or greater than its base power, or one of the big ones is if you've already drawn a card this turn, you get extra text. So you can take these cards and go, you know, I already have a lot of things that draw cards at this point, like trade-in or gold generation. And then I start seeing the dual class cards that say if I've drawn a card, get extra text like go again or +1 or something like that. So you can start going deeper on this archetype because no one else is taking them. I really like that space. You also have that bit with the armor where it's like, oh, well, I'm already doing things with these tokens. I'm really focused on making these tokens. Well, now I have a payoff for making these tokens in these really good pieces of armor that let me block extra if I have these tokens in play. I really like that. It makes the draft portion more interesting of just looking for specific cards that synergize with what you already have versus just generically taking the best card out of every pack. Just, yep, it's a blue block 3. Yep, it's a 3 for 7. Like, that on railsiness can get tedious, and it's not interesting to me. So being able to go, this card in a vacuum is really good, but this synergizes better with what I already have, creating interesting draft decisions and letting you create decks that are high synergy, and they don't all feel like you're drafting the same deck over and over again. I like that a lot. That's something I've been desperately needing out of Fab Draft, so I'm happy that we have that in this set. I also like that the tokens kind of feel like color identity in Magic. That was something that I liked out of Tales of Aria with the elemental system, and they kind of brought that back in this set. It feels similar to that. I'd like to see more of that in the future. I think that was something that they pulled off really well, of just like kind of from a feels standpoint of this set. Something else that I like about this set is there's less randomness than I was going into this expecting. Like, when I heard it was a brute set and the mechanics were wager and things like that, not knowing what these mechanics like really did, just we're going to have these kind of gambly mechanics and seeing the artwork of very gambly things. I went into the set with low expectations of my enjoyment of the format because I was expecting it to be very random and high rolly and just not rewarding meaningful decision making as much as it feels like it should. And I'm pleasantly surprised that is not the case, that the set does not revolve around that. You have some instances of that, but I think the main one that you really get at that is Clash. Clash is the one that feels the most random to me. And jumping ahead to my cons, that is a mechanic I do not like out of the set. I have not enjoyed Clash, but it feels like it's not something that I'm intended to like. It's something to make games more exciting, less obvious what the outcome is, just like looking at the game, create exciting moments for people and interesting for viewing and such. I feel like that is the intent behind it. So that is, I'm not the target audience for a mechanic like that. So whatever. But I'm at least going to voice that I don't really enjoy that mechanic very much. It doesn't help that I tend to lose every single one even when I'm playing a Guardian. Oh well. It's not really a pro or con or anything, but like, while just kind of circling back to the tokens from a second ago, one thing that I wish there was a little bit more of when it came to the payoffs and everything of these like build around things is I felt like there wasn't as many payoffs for vigor as there were for the other ones. Like, it felt like agility and might are just like super generically good. Like, you can almost always use either of these tokens, and the payoff for having them is very good. Where the vigor is dubious if it's good, because you don't know going into the next turn whether or not you need that extra resource. So the payoff is really like, oh, I can attack and block in such a way where I can use an extra resource. So where my turn maybe normally would be a 3 resource turn, so I have to block with this extra 1 cost, now I can keep it and play a more aggressive hand. Or I can play 4 cost attacks and Guardian off of a single blue, like little things like that. Or I can use the extra resource to play a pump and then swing with my weapon, and little things like that. It just felt like it was less exciting than the other ones, and I wouldn't have minded seeing some more things that specifically rewarded you for having vigor tokens. But minor gripe, it's still, vigors are still good. One thing I also really like about the format, it's not a strictly fatigue format that also gets tedious after a while, every game just being about deck size matters and things like that. It is still a part of the format. Like, fatigue still exists, but it's not just, I'm gonna block with every card of my deck every turn, head empty, no thoughts, and hope that you can't overcome that. It feels more how I like fatigue to be, where it's fatiguing through damage and deck size is going to matter if you waste your cards and play inefficiently, or like you just keep blocking with 2 blocks on things like that. Like, you need to be smart about how you use your resources, and if you willy-nilly throw things away, then you will fatigue. So I like that. I think that's a better way for fatigue to be in a format. So I've been liking that more. Play draw doesn't feel as imbalanced in this format as it has in some of the others. That was something that I constantly complained about in Outsiders, where the play draw felt super unfavorable. If I always felt like if I went first, I was just super behind. That was one of the reasons that I forced Benji a lot, because it was one of the few heroes that could really get advantage on turn 0. Like, if I can get an arsenal and leak like 3 to 4 damage, I'm not as far behind as I would be as another deck. So, but when I played other things, going first just felt abysmal. And that's been something that I've been liking about this format, because you have things that you can do on turn 0. You can discard one of the things from your, I think they're the wind-ups, the discard to make a token cards. You can play any of the cards that just make a token. You could crack your armor to make a token. You could overpower punch your opponent in the mouth. You could swing something at them and then play a reaction over and get some chip damage. Like, there's things that you can do turn 0 that can net you an advantage, where maybe you left the turn cycle with an arsenal plus like 3-4 value somewhere. So really like that. It doesn't feel awful going first in this format, where it's even a question of, is it correct to go first? Maybe. One thing I've been enjoying in the playing of the games is the mini game of getting all of your value out of your conditional blocking armor. You've got the ones that can only block if you have the specific tokens in play. You have the ones that can only block if your opponent has cracked one of their own tokens of the specific type, or they've drawn a card on this turn. And then you also have the ones that only work if you're lower life. Like, a lot of conditional armor. So it leads to interesting navigating of the game, where you're trying to play this mini game of how do you get value out of these. I don't know. I've liked that. I like it when you have these like little sub games within the game of trying to do these other things at the same time, not just let me add up the numbers on my cards and we'll just see who flipped over more value over the course of the game. That can get boring as well. So having these like other things going on, I've been enjoying that quite a bit. I mean, that being said, one thing I've really liked is the games feel interesting. I feel like, again, it's not just flipping over numbers on cards all the time. There's you're trying to create these synergies with your cards. You're trying to get value out of these like little niche interactions with each other. And you also have lots of things mattering in the game. Like, again, you can't waste your cards, but it's not about strictly fatigue. So there's like little decisions on how to min-max your deck value. And endgames feel interesting because of how closing endgames can be, because you have the evasive damage at the end of the game, but then there's damage prevention and things like that that can circumvent that. Specifically what cards you're blocking with, because of the card types on them matters. There's like a lot of little interesting things going on that all add up to not just flipping over cards, and I've been enjoying that quite a bit. Also on that, the back and forth of kind of who has tokens, because like maybe they set up with a bunch of tokens on their side. They like make an agility and a might. It's like, okay, they got an arsenal, an agility, might. They're trying to like have a big turn here. So there's the back and forth of that of, well, now I need to punish them. And then if they know that I want to try to punish them, maybe they tried also pushing on that turn to strip my hand so I can't punish them. So there's little back and forth things there of the understanding what's going on in the game because of the tokens. And also with that wager can create some interesting situations too. One of the ones that has come up a lot is playing wage agility when your opponent already has an agility. That leads to interesting game decisions. And then I like how this format also has the ability to like set up for big turns. It's not just monkey my hand and my opponent every turn. Like, okay, maybe I need to play a big bop and set up for like a really big damage turn. The catch-up mechanics, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Right now I have it as a pro. I've been liking it, but I might change my opinion on that as I get deeper in the format. You've got, like I said already, the armor that only works when you're behind. And then you also have things like Adrenaline Rush, where you can only throw it when you're behind. You've got, I think it's called Down But Not Out. If I'm wrong, I'll throw a picture up. You can only play it if you're behind on life, tokens, and armor, and then it's got the overpower and then make a ton of tokens. Just you have these like really swingy things that can happen when you're behind. So then it also creates these little mini games of similar to the other mini game I was talking about. Of well, do I want to even let my opponent get behind? Maybe I want to burn through my armor. Maybe I don't want to play a million tokens. Like these like little micro decisions to try to make it so they can't get value out of their things leads to some interesting decision making that I've been liking. Going on to cons, some of this is a little nitpicky. The mini tokens. I know a lot of people have really liked the mini tokens. I freaking hate them. But I have it's twofold. One, I have bad eyesight, so like sometimes I can't tell what the token is. Like it's small and it's too far away, so I just don't see what it is. So then I have to ask. And it's just annoying. The other thing is my eye. This will change after playing the game more. And again, this is nitpicky. My eyes aren't trained for looking for these little chitters on the board. So, playing multiple years of card games, I'm used to looking for specific things on the board of a specific size. So I'm just not going to always notice, oh, right, you had that little token off in the corner. I just wasn't even paying attention to that, wasn't looking for that. Super nitpicky, third time. Minor gripe. It's not the end of the world. I haven't liked them. I prefer regular size tokens. This one is not nitpicky. I don't like this at all. Is the legendary equipment in disguise. The specialization equipment, I think, is way overtuned for limited, and if anything, it just should have been at Majestic. Maybe, I don't know. These are, I think, a little too powerful for limited, and I think they swing games a little bit too much, especially the Betty one. But we're here now. I would prefer if we didn't have things like that in the future. They're too powerful for the limited format. This is something that kind of was coming up for me a bit at Sealed. Like, I didn't like this, but this might have been an intentional knob that they turned to make it so the format didn't turn into Fatigue and Sealed. I felt like there was too much equipment in Sealed. I didn't like opening my pool and I was like 12 equipment and I have 6 hats. I'm like, what am I supposed to fucking do with 6 hats? And then this happened to me at a couple of pre-releases where I look at my different pools and I'm like, I have like 2 to 3 reds in each of the non-dual class hero piles. I don't have good cards in my pool because half of my pool is being eaten up with these goddamn equipment over here. Obviously not half, I'm exaggerating, but it felt bad specifically in my case where I had a bunch of sealed pools that just were like stone cold unplayable, and it was like the only thing I can really point at was hurting that was the equipment, where I was like, this is just awful. I can't use any of this shit. Like one of them, I was like, I have 12 equipment. I literally don't even have one for each slot. This is awful. I understand the flavor. Like, we're going into the arena, we're doing a pit fight. Of course, you're going to be squatted up with all the equipment. That just makes sense flavorfully. But from a gameplay perspective, I had some moments that did not feel the best. Now, this minor, I feel like we've gotten this set has gotten better for that, and I kind of already touched on this earlier a little bit. But I feel like the draft portion could still use a little more depth, especially once you already know which hero you're in. The synergy archetypes things that I talked about earlier in the video, they definitely help with that. Because now you can start looking for specific synergy cards to what you're building that might be better for you than the person also in your class. But I still do notice moments of just generically best card for my hero, take it, and you can just have moments where you feel very on rails and you're not really making decisions. It's just like me and Lucas were just memeing on that the other night when I was watching him draft, where he's just like 3-block slam, 3-block slam, 3-block slam, and he just like wasn't making decisions during the draft. He was just taking the blue 3-block every pick. So I don't really know how to fix this other than like go even further into the synergy things. There is definitely a point in which there's too much of that and it becomes too inaccessible for non-enfranchised people to get value out of drafting, where it feels like you don't want it to go so far where you have to only draft in this high synergy way, otherwise your deck is just dog water. So where's that line got to be? I would prefer if we moved it just a little slightly, and kind of see how that feels, and just kind of keep moving it until it's at the right point. But I like the direction it's going, though. So I think this was a step in the right direction. It doesn't just feel like you're on rails from pick 4 forward. So it's just some of the pack feels like that now, every pack. And my last point was I don't like Clash, but I already talked about that. So yeah, overall, I give the set 2 thumbs up out of 10. I think, not out of 10 thumbs. I don't have 10 thumbs. It's just, I like the set so far. I've liked the experience of playing it. I forgot my main thing. I just completely skipped over it. Now, this is specifically a gripe for Sealed, because I feel like this largely goes away in Draft, assuming that your deck is of a higher quality than your Sealed deck. This is my biggest complaint about the format. I didn't like how it felt like you got punished more in this set for drawing a bad hand than you have in any other set in Fab before. By what I mean by that is, typically in Fab, when you draw Butt Cheeks hand, you're just like, yeah, this hand does not play. I drew 4 reds or 4 blues. Like, this hand is just stone cold unplayable. Whatever, I'll block. And you're not going to get as much efficiency usually out of blocking than attacking on most of these hands, except for some sets like WTR where you the very heavy 3-block count. But you still get some value out of that hand, and it'll just be like, okay, whatever, I'll block, maybe I'll get an arsenal with one of these cards, and I'll move on with life. I lost the turn cycle, but I'll try again later. Like, this, it's not the end of the world. I drew 1 bad hand. The game continues. In this set, that frequently doesn't feel like the case. Usually, what I found happened, and almost all of my games on either side were decided by this, where it'd be a moment where a player would draw a bad hand, but it also blocks for 8. It's like, if I keep all 4 cards, I'm attacking for 7, or if I block with all 4 cards, I'm blocking for 8. Like, this hand, no matter what, loses on both sides of the turn cycle, and I guess I'm priced into blocking, and they end up taking chip through that block, and the opponent gets no pressure on the other side because they just didn't get attacked, or they just took all this damage and threw a 4-card 7. Like, either way is bad, and the opponent then comes back at them again with a hand, but because you lost that turn cycle so badly, you now are really behind, and it kind of puts you in a spot where you feel like you have to block because you're so far behind. And because of the heavy 2-block count in the set, playing defensive is very difficult, and it can create this spiral where, this hand didn't attack or block, so now I have to block again, but my next hand also doesn't block, and the game just ends on the spot from that turn cycle, basically, because you just are so far behind, you can just never get back in. Editing Pheano here. I think the thing I don't mention here that is part of it is the wager mechanic. A lot of times what ends up happening on those specific turns is you lose a wager, and then it creates a snowball, like they get an agility or something, and then they're able to just chain those turns into each other. Now, again, this probably goes away a lot in Draft because you're getting more 3-blocks. Your average deck quality is better. You're drafting a higher synergy deck than just the random pile of 6-packs that you had. Could still technically happen, but less often. I don't really have a fix for this because I don't think it's necessarily just add more 3-blocks to the set. Like, it's not like I'm complaining about the number of 3-blocks in this set, because I think it's appropriate for Draft. I think partly of that has to do with, like, what I was complaining about with the equipment, where if you have less cards that you can play in your... If you have less options of cards that you can play in your deck because they're being eaten up by other things, then the average block value of your deck is going to go down because you have a finite number of cards you can play. So maybe that's the knob to turn. Like, a few more cards that I could have drafted... I could have put into my deck during Sealed that allow me to cut some of the bad cards that block for 2. Maybe that's the knob to turn. I don't really know. It just felt bad when, like, the game just ends on the spot from that. That happened to me in, like, all my pre-releases, but then like to me, but then I did that to every single person at the Rabble event, the Sealed Rabble event. Like, I had a game against Craig, one of my teammates, where I did that. I was just, like, never winning that game. I was so far behind, but then he drew the 4-red 2-block hand, and the game just flipped instantly, and he just lost on the spot that turn. I've seen that happen too many times where it feels like the only thing that matters is who draws the bad hand first, and that's not what Fab is about, to me at least. Like, that's one of the things that drew me to this game. It feels like it's less card gamey than other card games, where you're not just like, you drew. I like sitting down and not going, you drew better than me, I guess you win. That's if I wanted that, I'd go play a different card game. But yeah, like I said, set. I've liked the set. I've liked the experience with this. I think it's better than a lot of the prior sets. It's one of those cases where it feels like they're learning, they're improving, and making the experience better set after set after set. So I'm very I'm looking forward to playing more of this, and I'm hopeful for future sets to see them continue to improve on this. But yeah, what have you guys been thinking? Is there anything that I didn't cover that you guys have an opinion on the set? Have you been enjoying it? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. If you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you.